Hello, everyone. I am Steve Wolfson, and I am here to yak yet again. Um, I got the inspiration the other day. I want to. This was my write-up. It's not too long. I want to read it for those that haven't seen it. And I called it "Some Thoughts About the Current Craziness," because when I start hearing from people all over the place about how it's kind of crazy, there's something going on. And so I want to give some thoughts on it. I experience the intensity getting increasingly extreme. This says to me we are in a time of deep and vast change. Such an extent of change isn't easy for any human. It can nearly simultaneously be experienced as scary, lonely, exhilarating, insane, exciting, overwhelming, among others, while bringing up emotions including anger, a sense of inadequacy, shame, gratitude, appreciation, fear, uncertainty, and confusion, kind of all over the map, and from moment to moment or hour to hour, perhaps shifting back and forth. I'm gearing this talk to those who are feeling the combination of these strong emotions and perhaps not always feeling like uh, what's the best way to survive this, get through this, what am I missing, and so forth. We can all point to transits we conclude are among the cause of what's going on, and that is all true. But the question for me right now is not why is this going on, but how. Regardless of the cause, how do I survive and persevere and grow and change and even spiritually prosper and at times even have gratitude for all of this? And oh, yeah, where are we going anyway? So, um, there's a lot going on. And I want to start. There's a lot going on around us. There's in our country, in the planet, in our individual lives, and so forth. And I want to start by reaffirming that times of great change uh, are the evolutionary path unfolding, accelerating, speeding up. The crises that we are experiencing and going to experience on this planet, climate, and all the other things that we know about, are part of this evolutionary principle. They're because they are collectively pushing us that the known reality that we have cannot sustain. It becomes physically impossible. This means there's going to be change, and on a large scale, and we certainly have transits to uh, present and upcoming to uh, indicate the truth in that. But we're going to change. Collectively, we're going to change. And to survive, fundamentally, to survive. Climate wise, to survive. Food wise, to survive. We just passed 8 billion people on the planet, up from the previous high of 7 billion. Just to put some context on it, when I was born, there were about 2 billion people on the planet. And I'm not quite done yet. So that's a humongous amount of change. And I would say, from the soul perspective, Why do all these souls want to be on the planet at this time? And my answer to that is because of the evolutionary possibilities and potential that occurs. Now, that potential, a lot of it is going to come out of various collective, or certainly seems like it's going to come out of various collective crises that the earth, humanity, humans collectively, we are going to go through. Nobody would choose this consciously per se. I think, you know, Al Gore was one of the people that first really started publicizing this, and I think the title of his book, which was An Inconvenient Truth, was really perfect because there are things in this life that are inconvenient truths. We're limited. We can't do any and everything that we want. On the global scale, there's not enough resources literally on the planet to provide the kind of modern lifestyle that billions and billions of people that are coming online with, where that becomes even a possibility for the first time, what it would require. You know, as I ponder this stuff, this may be why people leave their home, you know, futuristic, not happening tomorrow, but we're seeing the first seeds of it. Why people leave their home planet and go explore space and look for other lands and other worlds and all this sort of thing. I mean, what if they've gotten really crowded or they've used up the resources or they needed to do some of this to survive as well as prosper? You know, we're in a shifting time. It's interesting for me personally because I am, you know, I've kind of a young at heart kind of person at heart. And the reality of that there is a timeline on this incarnation is becoming very real. My health I am blessed with is not, I have no real major health issues going on at all. And I have a lot of gratitude for that. But it just gets clearer. And another interesting thing that happens with this advancing of age is, which I had no sense of. I had no clue when younger, and not that much younger, really what it feels like, or the perspective that develops. And I will say that there is a deepening sense of wisdom uh, percolating through me, which comes from experience and learning and growth and change and enduring. We do need to endure a lot of things at times. And that there is a lot of discomfort and, you know, what Buddhism calls suffering or pain, or things often don't work out the way I think I would like them to. And especially when younger, of course, we have resistance to that, which on the human perspective level makes total sense. But various things can occur that are not what you might call fairy book or fairy tale types of experiences. And, you know, we resist them. Who in their right mind wants these kind of things to happen? Wants to succumb to them, wants to not feel good and happy and chase excitement and push away discomfort, struggle, grief, uh, difficult emotions, and situations. This is the human part of our lifetime. And the main reasons I see that this starts to change is because at certain points, at certain times, certain things can occur that literally are beyond our known, and I'm talking here on the individual level, are beyond a person's known capacity or methodology for dealing with. You don't know how to handle certain things that come up. The first strategy, which makes complete sense, is often enough denial. Well, it's not really happening. I'm not feeling anything about it. It's okay. Yeah, it's just avoid it. What can I do to amuse myself and get out of this? And of course, people who are having difficult experiences and in varying great shades of grief or whatever, often enough the advice that they get is kind of like, oh, well, don't think about it too much and you'll get through this and, it's, go find something fun to do and so forth. And sometimes that, I'm not saying that's terrible advice, uh, but it's rarer to find somebody that can be with the pain, the grief, the sorrow, the sadness, the rage, whatever, that someone is experiencing without trying to fix them or make it better or just get away from it. Because that's our human tendency. I noticed in myself, because I always have a tendency to try to quote help people. And at a certain point, I realized part, not all, part of my desire to help someone with what they were feeling is because, I'm pretty intuitive and sensitive, and I feel what people are feeling often enough. And I didn't want to feel what they were feeling, so I was trying to help them make it better. I wasn't okay with feeling it. And this is the biggest change that's occurred in my life, and really over the last 5 or so years, is is changing my attitude and relationship with uncomfortable and difficult and disowned feelings in experiences that I was having in my relationship with other people and so forth. And to stop pushing it away. And it's more like life is going to bring what life is going to bring. I get a certain amount of say in the matter, but some things are going to occur that are beyond my ability to foresee or control. Um, I'll, for example, over the last number of years, I've talked in here quite a bit about the connection I have with my partner, which and the growth that I've experienced with her and her emotional astuteness and so forth. Well, unbeknownst to me, a couple of months ago, she came to the point of, you know, I want us to be friends. We're more friends than relationship partners, and this is the decision I've come to. So, yeah, we had issues and whatnot in our relationship, but I was not expecting this. Even though I'd thought about it from time to time myself, I wasn't expecting this. It was kind of a curveball, and I haven't really fallen to pieces and all this, but it has accelerated. Um, it's accelerated a lot of my emotional patterns, and in terms of acceptance of denial, because I came to the point of realizing she's really serious and is not. It's not like, oh, we're going to go back and work this and that out. We're changing the form of what we're doing. We're still very close and share a lot of love, but it was a time in life for her growth and obviously for mine, uh, where the nature of what we were doing needed to shift. Since I wasn't particularly looking for this, it's not necessarily an easy transition at times. And I'm using this not to so much to talk about my personal life, but as a very close and real example of what I'm talking about. I feel like we are here, or collectively at least, and many of us consciously at this time, to learn to do something that doesn't really seem like it's been done that much yet so far on this planet, which is to simultaneously be a human being and also be aligned, attuned to, aware of our soul nature, our eternal nature. To step back, I've talked about this a number of times, and I will keep talking about it because I think it's incredibly important that in our culture, what U.S. culture in particular, but it's leading the way for the world. Basically, the point of life, I would say consensus life, or the way that we're taught, is that I am to strive to be have as much fun and joy and uh, carefreeness and enjoyment and all this as possible at all times. I can buy anything I want that helps me feel that way. I can associate with or not associate with people that either add to or detract from that. And this is kind of our MO. And when taken to extremes, I feel this is the root of addiction, and not only substance addiction. I include alcohol when it becomes an addiction, but many sorts of addictions. We have work addiction. I deal with that. Places we feel safe, that we're good at, that we want to stick with. And sometimes it's to avoid uncomfortableness, avoid pain, avoid what I'm truly feeling because I don't like what I'm feeling. And oftentimes I don't like what I'm feeling enough that I'm not even aware of that's what I'm feeling. So we layer emotion. For example, I found it in my own reality that I use anger often enough, or have used anger often enough, as a defense against deeper lying emotions. So when someone speaks to me or accuses me, or to even add to what I just said, where I experience being accused, let's put it that way, they may not that may not be what the person is doing at all, but I may experience it as that. And those parts of me would take it as a given that I'm being accused and push back. So for a number of years now, it's been, well, what lies below all this? And there are feelings underneath this. I think a sense of guilt and shame at a deep level is very prevalent in many, many people. I would say, especially, though not exclusively, in sensitive people. We don't feel good about ourselves. We don't live in a culture that chooses to have us feel good about ourselves. And oftentimes, the definition in the culture of what feeling good about yourself looks like or feels like is kind of nonsense. It's like, oh, you're wonderful. Oh, you're fabulous. All this. Like we do, this happens a lot to kids these days, where they're not really held to account. Now, I don't mean in a punitive way, but they're filled up because they're doubtful, because they question all this. They're told about how wonderful they are, da 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 da, and this sinks in, and that doesn't really remove the underlying feelings, but it gives a means to avoid feeling them. And then it also leads to feeling better than, which is any sense of feeling better than, to me, I get clearer and clearer, is a cover for an underlying sense of inadequacy that requires feeling better, because I may feel crappy about myself, but I'm better than this person, that person, this group, and so forth. So we are here not, we can have fun, we can have pleasure. This is not some kind of, strict dogmatic reality, but it's not like the primary point. Those are some of the experiences that we have. We get the whole smorgasbord of emotions, of experiences. We're going to get some that are deeply painful, sorrowful, difficult to endure. And we get other ones, the contrast, the polarity, that are just amazing and fabulous and exciting. And this is what I want more and more of in my life. And why have I ever done without this? And a good metaphor that's coming to me about it is, if you think of a painter, an artist, a painter's palette, and they have the dabs of colors that are on the palette. And we have those parts in us that only want to paint with some of the colors. The ones that I experience as fun and exciting and joyful and pleasant and so forth. And the other ones, not so much, not so much. So this is how, until we start catching on, we tend to respond to the events that occur in our lives. And we label them good and bad, and even divine and, profane. More and more I see we just have experiences, and we color the experiences based on our own experiences, our own history, our own past, our own traumas, and our own past preferences and joys and so forth. So we're not much of the time seeing what is happening right now, this minute, this moment, as it is happening. I am essentially projecting my past and my fears of the future, or desires for the future, on whatever is occurring in this moment. And that is the normal state for much of our culture. So that's what all this not mindlessness, mindfulness, emphasis on mindfulness and being present and so forth is about, is kind of trying to bring us back to right here, right now. I may be having an experience, I may feel I'm about to have an experience that triggers me because I've had 7 that seem sort of like this in the past that have been highly traumatizing and painful. And so I start fearing it's happening again. I start going into defensive mode, shutting down, putting up barriers, walls, trying to ward off what may be happening. But I don't really know that that's what might be happening. It may look like it, it may smell like it. And it's not that it's wrong to have these defenses or reactions arise. In fact, I don't think it's possible that to prevent them from arising. I think it's more like noticing them. Oh, here's those parts of me coming up. What am I feeling? I see this part is coming up that's afraid of what might happen. I may lose something here. I may be taken advantage of. This is reminding me of things that have come before. And again, it's not bad or wrong to feel those things or to try to shut them down and be present, because that's not real either. It's kind of like all of this is going on simultaneously and just noticing it. What is life trying to show me here? One of the things that's really been put through my head is that when things are coming up, the deepest reason things are coming up is because they're coming up so that healing can occur. The potential or possibility of healing can occur. And this means that the very experiences, painful things, suffering, whatnot, that I've had in the past is going to appear to resurface. And it is, in fact, but it's not coming up like, oh, here we go again, but rather, can I find a new way through this? What if something that I've been very afraid of, that I've been whacked with many times in the past, is coming up, and there's somebody there who actually has the capacity to give me a different experience from what I'm expecting. I'm expecting to get clobbered again, emotionally at least. What if I can have a different experience out of this? I might get clobbered again. But what if the possibility is there that I could experience something very different than what I'm used to? And it takes a certain amount of courage to face that moment in openness, because my body, my nervous system, my body is going to begin shutting down, just because of how familiar this scenario seems to be. So can I notice all this? Can I observe all this? Can I, as best I can, remain open? It's definitely going to bring things up for me, and I may not do it perfectly, and that's okay. I may get pulled in to my old pattern. I may not be able to get out of the old pattern. It may take me over. Sometimes it does. And that's okay. That's the difference. It's okay. If that's what happens, I will be with that afterwards. The issue is in the effort of trying to stay present with a circumstance or situation that I have been unable to stay present with in the past. And that is where the growth comes. Um, I want to shift gears here a little bit. I was speaking with someone earlier um, who was having a, a difficult time in situations with people that were close in her life that she has a difficult relationships with. And we were talking about how long this had been going on, which is years and years and years, and how painful it's been to her. And because of that pain, she eventually started approaching the situation with from a different perspective. Because originally she was feeling victimized on one hand, and also like made a scapegoat, uh, unfairly accused, put it that way. And, you know, very painful stuff. And she was telling me about how her attitude has changed over the last few years and where she takes it less personally. And I bring this up because it's a really good example of what I'm talking about. Because if it weren't for all the difficult, painful experiences that she had, she would not have had the opportunity to face those experiences and find a different way through them and change her relationship with herself, coming out of this repetition, where she started realizing it's not all my fault. And yes, it's unfair, but the reason that the other people can't recognize what's going on is because of their own limitations. They are not capable of seeing her where she's really coming from. At this point in time, they're not capable of seeing her where she's really coming from or trying to come from. And that's not because of her. She has her own places in her that cause her to feel bad about this. I wrote to someone recently, these words come out of me when I do, uh, that people are, somebody that put themselves out and got some criticism. And it came to me to reply. People are going to criticize you, and their criticisms, for the most part, are their stuff because they can't really see into you. Their stuff is the criticism, and your stuff is how you respond to the criticism. And I say this to myself. And it's not like I should be perfect and, have a smile and let it roll off my back. Well, we're going to, the very life brings us these circumstances that are beyond what we are currently capable of handling in a graceful way. That's the point. That's where the growth lies. I already know how to do what I know how to do. So just having circumstances come around that I've already learned to be pretty good with, there's not really growth in that. So life throws us what we may look at as curveballs from time to time. Like, wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting a change in status in my relationship. It's put me through stuff. I'm evolving. Um, wasn't my personal preference. And in speaking to my partner, I understand has come to the point this is what she needs to do for her own evolution. Um, so I support that. And I have my own reaction to it because I have my own wounds. And so it gives me an opportunity to evolve. I don't know where my life is going. It's not, at the same time I say that, we've been hanging around pretty much together and mostly alone for going on 3 years with pandemic, and each feeling a certain extent starting to feel called back. I'm not even the same person anymore. I'm not remotely the same person anymore. And so I've tried. I can't go back to the way I was or how I was uh, before. And I don't know, I feel a big change in who I interact with, who I want close in my life and who I don't want. It's not that I don't want them, but that doesn't feel right to be close in my life. And again, I'm saying this stuff not to talk about my pain because I'm pretty much okay with these changes, or I'm becoming pretty much okay, or more and more okay, let's put it that way, with these changes. But that they're examples of the sort of thing that I know that people are experiencing all over the place, each in our own way, each in our own unique way. And this is why I'm giving this talk, and why the focus of this is as it is, because growth or evolution literally means being taken out of my known, who I think I am, um, and put into an unknown that I have no idea what it is. And it's why the caterpillar cocoon chrysalis metaphor is such a good one. That is a process of metamorphosis, which Jeffrey is the word Jeffrey always used for Scorpio and Pluto stuff. Aquarius is transformation, which is an evolving of a known form. Metamorphosis is a thorough changing of form. There's nothing in a caterpillar that looks like it's going to become a butterfly. The caterpillar doesn't know that it's going to be a butterfly. The process of giving birth, which is very similar to me to giving human birth, is not a particularly fun process. It's a profound process, but the mechanics of it and the emotions of it don't always feel great. But that is the nature of this life, that we're here to evolve, to grow. And the craziness that's going on is part of that evolution, because nobody knows how, I've said it many times. I don't really have a plan B sitting on my shelf in case my life blows up. And I don't, so that, in other words, we're going to experience periods of uncertainty, discomfort, not knowing, um, occasional thoughts of, I've had enough of this, I don't want to be here anymore, and so forth, I feel are normal part of it. And when again, I want to give the caveat with that. if one is taken to the point where one is seriously thinking about checking out on a regular basis, that's a different story. What I'm saying is that having occasional feelings of, I don't know what I'm doing here and I don't even know if I want to be here anymore, is kind of part of this process, because what's happening is the larger changes are literally turning us into a different person than I have identified myself as being up until this time. Now, if you're a Pluto kind of person, have a Pluto kind of chart, you're going to have had more than a few of these experiences already in life. I feel that, you know. I had a major one of these uh, about almost 30 years ago, and it was very difficult. And out of it, in the long run, I was really grateful that I got to go through it, but that isn't the way I felt for at least a few years. So now, having had that experience and realizing that it seems an end, it feels like a death. Okay. It feels like a death, but they call the process death rebirth. And there's always a rebirth. And in the bigger picture, what we call death, literal physical death, is not death. It's the first part of an even larger death rebirth experience. I'm rebirthing totally elsewhere. But within the lifetime that we're living, we're going to have some number of smaller death rebirths. And some of them are going to feel like very large death rebirths, and they are. But it's not a physical end of the existence, but it's an emotional slash psychological slash spiritual end of being the person that I have been. These are occurring now, you know, in different places. When you're think about what's going on in Ukraine, for example. People were living there, minding their own business, basically living their lives, and all this stuff is going on, and it's a trauma that is going to change their life, even if they physically survive and aren't even near immediate danger and all this in a part of the country that's not being attacked. The trauma and the shifting that occurs creates these wounds, these emotional experiences that need to be gone through, worked through at certain points. And that is what's happening. I feel like trauma is basically that change or experiences are going on that are beyond the capacity of a person or a culture to integrate at that point in time. And so a survival technique is to split off from those parts, from those emotions, from those experiences, from that trauma, from those fears. That's the dissociation that we associate with Aquarius 11th house, Uranus, is there's too much. And in order to survive, I push it aside because I have to keep going. Numero uno, staying alive. The healing comes later because at a certain point, okay, I've survived, and now the growth is requiring me to integrate. And I feel like that's what a lot of the change that goes on and the sense of loss and so forth that occurs, because it's endings of what has been that very few people were sitting around praying to the Lord to send them the kind of life-changing, shifting, transformative experiences that just knock us off our game, so to speak. But the point is, because we don't have a full picture, we fear those experiences, we resent those experiences, we try to avoid those experiences. We are limited in the amount of compassion that we can hold for others that we are in contact with who are going through those kind of experiences, because it triggers the deeper parts of, uh-oh, that could be happening to me. So it's like practicing, learning to embrace everything. We don't have to be graceful. We're not going to be graceful. When we're dealing with the unknown and what I don't know, I'm not going to be graceful any more than few people become a virtuoso on a musical instrument the first, time they pick it up. Any kind of skill or art or even learning requires practice, repetition over and over and over. And to me, that's what more and more I see, that's what we're doing here. We're practicing. We're given these opportunities to practice. And because we don't see them as opportunities, but as things to avoid or get away from, it's not that we're not evolving, because that experience in itself is part of our evolving. But what I say is, what I've noticed in my own life, as I have learned, like, oh, that's why all this stuff's been going on forever. As my attitude, insight, appreciation into what it is deepens, then I develop a different relationship with the stuff. It still hurts. It's still scary. It can still piss me off. And that's okay, because that's all part of my adjusting to the new reality that's appearing in my life. And the important part is, there's always a new beginning. It's usually, for a major change, it's usually not happening in the first hour or month or even year. But there's never an end. There's never an end. It's always new, and there's always something coming next. And that's the whole point. And it's hard to believe at times, and it's supposed to be hard to believe. You shouldn't be sitting there going, all right, I know we don't know. We don't know. How do I know that that's true? Because I experienced it happen. I didn't think there was I didn't even have a concept of a new beginning, not in that way. But over 5, 7, 8 years, I experienced it firsthand. And now I have a built-in knowing, oh, despite what it feels like, this isn't the end. It's the end of what has been, but it's the beginning of what will be. And I don't get to see what will be, and I have to sit with the destruction of what has been without yet really sensing much. I might get an occasional glimpse or clue of what will be. And it's that sitting in the unknown with the nothingness, what feels like nothingness. That's a hard place. But that's where we really have the opportunity to start seeing more deeply what the heck goes on inside of me. Where am I? What are my beliefs? What are my attitudes? Who am I blaming for what's going on? Was it really their fault? Or are they responding to something in them that requires them to act in a way that I don't like because it makes discomfort for me? Or are they acting out of fear because they feel the change is coming on and they're freaked out inside and they're running away and not wanting to deal with it? And there's nothing I can do about that. Now, by the way, that is not what I feel the need to say this. That is not at all what my partner is doing. I just want to be clear on that. I'm saying that oftentimes people, um, you run into people that aren't ready. They're not ready. And sometimes we're more ready. If you're listening to this kind of talk, if you're studying evolutionary astrology and all this, you have a capacity or a depth, or you wouldn't be interested in these things. And, you know, it's not that widespread in my experience, so there's not a lot of understanding of it at times. At times. So I'm going to wind down here. I will be back. Don't know when yet. And I appreciate those of you who listen to this and find value in it. And if you want to leave me a comment on the YouTube video, I really appreciate that. And if it calls for a response, I will happily respond. I wish everybody a wonderful holiday season and setting the stage for a growth-filled 2023. Thank you.
Awesome, Steve. Thank you, as always.
You
Wonderful.
are welcome.
See you next time.
Bye.